Hello there. Now we're gonna get some shelf life discussions again. Because he's only been in office for 2 weeks and already the first one takes his hat. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak loses a Minister of State. After just these 2 weeks in office, the Prime Minister has already lost one, and don't know how many there will be. On Tuesday evening, Secretary of State Gavin Williamson, who was sitting at the cabinet table without a portfolio, took his hat. The Conservative MP had come under pressure in the past few days because of various allegations of bullying, so Sunak's real scandal now. Sunak recently expressed confidence in Williamson, but described his choice of words to a party friend in text messages that had become public as unacceptable. However, he emphasized that he wanted to wait for the results of an internal investigation. We've heard that one before too. After further allegations were made on Tuesday, William took the consequences himself. I reject the statements in these allegations, but I recognize that they distract from the good work this government is doing for the British people. That's what Williamson wrote in his resignation letter to the Prime Minister. Although, good work? William's resignation is likely to raise doubts as to whether Sunak is in a position to steer his Conservative governing party, which has recently been completely divided and sinking into chaos, and he tried to get them into calmer waters. He had taken the post just 2 weeks ago from Liz Truss, who was forced to resign by her own faction after just 7 weeks in office. Truss only succeeded Boris Johnson, who had been ousted due to numerous scandals at the beginning of September. And particularly sensitive for Sunak is the allegation that he was already aware that there had been allegations of bullying against Williamson when he appointed him to the cabinet. I've got a déjà vu there for Johnson. The Prime Minister claimed that he had no knowledge of the specific allegations, but the opposition Labour Party saw him badly damaged. This is yet another example of Rishi Sunak's poor judgment and weak leadership, said Labour Vice Chair Angela Rayner. The head of government was obviously tied to dirty backroom deals, which he accepted to avoid an internal party runoff for the Truss successorship. The allegations against Williamson weigh heavily. According to the WhatsApp news published by the newspaper Sunday Times, he had tried to put pressure on the then Conservative parliamentary group leader Wendy Morton with sometimes coarse language and threats. Williamson was reportedly trying to secure an invitation to the funeral service in September following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And further allegations were made by a former employee. Accordingly, Williamson is said to have advised the man to cut his throat and jump out of the window. In his letter of resignation, the Minister of State denied the allegations, as I said. I reject the statements in these allegations. That's what he wrote. And let's not talk about the part with the good work of the government again. But they are so denying everything. And Sunak too now, well, the bullying affair comes at an inopportune time for Rishi Sunak because he wants to present his plans on November 17th, with which the billion-dollar budget deficit caused in part by his predecessor is to be filled. But there are other problems as well. The criticism of Interior Minister Suella Braverman does not want to stop either. The politician, who belongs to the right-wing Conservative wing of the party, has met with growing opposition for her ruthless crackdown on migrants. Recently, a hopelessly overcrowded initial reception centre on the English Channel made the headlines. The Conservative MP, in whose constituency the refugee home is located, speculated in television interviews that the miserable conditions there could have been caused by the government on purpose. Yeah, Braverman could do that. It cannot be ruled out that Braverman could also leave the cabinet soon. In addition, there's a report about Sunak's wife's business interests that is unpleasant for Sunak. As The Guardian reported at the weekend, the Indian IT company Infosys, in which Sunak's wife holds shares, is said to continue doing business in Russia, contrary to statements that were given. When asked by a journalist from Sky News whether his family benefited financially from the government of the Kremlin ruler Vladimir Putin, Sunak simply replied, "I don't think that's the case." Whether he was at... we will see. Today when I'm filming this is PMQ time, and if he will get away with it on PMQs, we will see. I will have to talk about this a day later, but because PMQs are after filming, but it's gonna be interesting. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.